So, we're doing a Q&A, and my goodness, we have so many questions about Jim Gavin that I'm just going to ask you one, right? Because otherwise, we're going to be here forever.
Okay.
We haven't spoken about him. We haven't spoken about any of it. We just did it.
Yeah.
We were as cool as a breeze. We did it and we walked away from it. We left everything burn and on we went. Right?
Right.
So, this is something actually that I think you sort of did handle a little bit during it, but maybe you're in a better position to answer this now. Or certainly we talked about this during the whole thing. I can't remember whether we spoke about it on the podcast or not, but it was something that a lot of people were talking about. So the question is, how does Niall feel the Jim Gavin story would have gone down during Dublin 6 in a row?
I don't probably less well.
The word is badly, I think you're looking for?
The word is probably badly. Look, I mean, it was a mind-blowing experience, actually, the whole thing in one way, and it still goes on.
It still comes up all the time. Do people stop you and
people stop me and
ask you about it?
Sometimes
people stop me and ask me a lot about it.
People stop me a bit, but it still goes on because I mean, even this week, Ivan Yates is in front of the Dáil, and that's to do with Jim Gavin. So, and then obviously Fianna Fáil are doing up a report.
Well, you've kind of come out of the ether of it, have you not?
I have because I mean the debate. We got a few questions, and of course I did get my money back, and I'm grateful to get the money back. And of course I hadn't planned to have that money, so 3,000 is nice, and I paid off my credit card bill, and I'll have a bit more for Christmas. And so, like, I'm grateful to get it back, and I wish the man well. That's the other thing, and I was delighted to see Jim Gavin at an event there recently. Sorry, it was over the weekend. I can't even remember what it was, but
But during the 6 in a row, that would be like a story coming out that. This is hypothetical, for goodness sake, but it'd be like a story coming out now or something coming out now about Troy Parrott.
It would.
Like, he's our hero, isn't he? We all absolutely are backing him. Fantastic footballer, and he's possibly bringing us further.
It was incredible achievement,
So, I suppose when somebody is in that moment of absolute fame, and no one stays in that moment for very long, but the 6 in a row was a long run of him being the Dublin hero, really. All the while, people who knew you were ringing you every time he won another one, saying, "No, that fella still owe you the rent."
I suppose. Look, I mean,
but I think he would have had a lot of backing, and I think there would have been a lot of people. Would there?
I don't know. Look, I mean. Look, I don't want to get back into it at all for obvious reasons, and but I have to say, I just think I suppose a presidential election is different.
Yeah.
And that's why it impacted, I suppose.
It's savage though, a presidential election. Savage.
Yeah, it
Anything
is.
That
well, I think the thing about
is...
the presidential election, in a normal election, people talk about their policies and they have a chance of implementing them. But the presidential election is I think it's so rough because really the president, by its constitutional nature, doesn't have the capacity to have an impact on homelessness or Gaza or whatever your particular issue. So they can talk about it and they can give people a sense of who they are, but they really are. It is a ceremonial role. That's just the way it is. So therefore, it gets very personal. But look, I'm happy to put it all behind me and. Let's move on.
Let's move on to the next question. The next question I'm going to ask myself.
Your favourite type of question.
My favourite type of question, but it's, will the monk run for the by-election? And we spoke about this in the podcast the other day, and we put some money on the table, big bucks.
Yeah.
Do you remember? It was 10 grand each, was it?
It was a tenner.
Anyway, I'm going to say that, I have actually been speaking to people close to him who say, yes, he is going to run. But he's not going to say anything publicly about that or confirm that because it's so long away.
Yeah, of course.
It's going to be in next year. It's going to be February, March, April next year, isn't it?
It could be April or May.
And who knows what is going to happen in the meantime.
Who knows what's going to happen. And you know what I think? I think that if you're running in a 4-seat constituency where there's all the parties are involved, he would have a chance. But I think on with a single seat at stake, it's going to be very, very difficult. And I think he'd be mad to run. But
the man is as it stands at the moment, the word is that yes, he is running.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a scoop.
Yes.
Okay, you ask a question there.
Okay.
There's so many of them. We're not going to get through hardly any of these, but we'll do our best.
So this is a totally different one. Where does Nicola get her eyebrows done?
Oh, for goodness sake.
Do you get them done?
Of course I do.
Okay.
Everyone gets their eyebrows
What
done.
is the ideal sort of eyebrow? Because I don't really know. Is it because it seems to change? I mean, I remember them being really skinny and then they've gone up, have they? Are they gone back down?
So, no.
Not that we're going to stay too long on this. But
no, we can stay on this. It's okay because this is for our ladies listeners, I imagine. I imagine the men out there aren't that bothered with this.
No.
But nowadays, eyebrowdery, which is...
That's what it's called?
It's an art form. Do you know that?
I did not.
Yeah. So it's all about measuring and mapping the face and then... like essentially most people get their eyebrows tattooed now.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
People aren't looking for
what
little...
happened was when I would have been younger and anybody around my age, which is...
1980s.
8 days older than you... but there was this trend that you had you know what I mean? You had very thin eyebrows.
Yeah, that's what I remember from...
And then
they got really big.
Yeah. Who, mine or just generally?
No, in general.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I thought I was going like this. What the hell
haven't
is
really,
he?
I've never actually paid attention to your eyebrows until this very second.
Until this very question. Yeah. No, there was a trend that it was very thin, but anybody who kept them thin then had no eyebrows left because that was it. So now there's this whole industry in... Is this anything to do with crime?
No, let's move on.
Let's move on. I can't believe I'm actually even answering that question for you.
So this is something that we've mentioned, and I suppose it's around this rumour. Have the Kinahans converted to Islam, and has that played any role in them still being in Dubai?
Well, my understanding is that yes, that has happened, and it happened quite some time ago.
Yeah.
I heard some stories that are probably not appropriate to retell. Commentary made here in Dublin in relation to the conversion and the kids and all the rest of it. So I'll keep them in my head and not coming out of it.
Yeah.
But the understanding we have is that Daniel Kinahan in particular has converted. We know that friends of his have converted. We have publicly seen John O'Carroll in particular coming out. I mean, he attended Mecca. Yeah, he
would be a boxer that was very close personal friends with Daniel Kinahan, according to himself, of course.
Yeah.
And nothing to do with crime, but certainly part of the MTK Global.
And part of his fan club. I mean, he was always singing up how wonderful Daniel Kinahan was.
Yeah. But he obviously converted and spoke very sincerely about it as well. But yeah, I mean, it will, in terms of the extradition, obviously Dubai have a treaty now with Ireland, and they have extradited a lot of people to the EU. But again, because of if somebody has a residency there, has maybe, if somebody had married a local woman, which wouldn't be the case in these cases, that would make a difference. And somebody's religion certainly could be taken into account with, if they were to be extradited. Now, I don't believe it has in this case. But of course, we haven't got to the point where Daniel Kinahan's is, the Irish government want him to be extradited.
Exactly. And whenever that point comes, because we have never got any reportage from inside the courts.
No, you can't.
Or anything. It's just impossible.
Yeah, it's illegal to actually report on it.
Okay, so even if Daniel Kinahan has indeed converted and uses that in an appeal to not be extradited back to Ireland where he couldn't maybe practice his faith properly or in the same way he can there, we won't know.
No.
But I would say certainly good sources of mine who have proved to be particularly reliable over the years. And, that's how you test a source, really. If if what they're telling you, the story comes through, like anybody, it's the same thing, but have said that, yes, definitely that is a route they have gone down en masse, actually.
Yeah.
So, but you see, the Kinahans went, and Daniel Kinahan, remember, has a number of children with a number of different women. Some of them are with him, and they're attending schools and everything out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're completely settled into society out there.
Yeah, for a long time. I mean, it's a decade or more. Don't know the exact date.
It's coming up to that, all right.
And just people who spent their whole lives there in his family,
I can tell you the date they were gone.
Yeah.
To, I should do you remember that thing that was on, was it Mastermind, your specialist bleeding topic?
I suppose so, yeah.
But I think it was May of 2016, and they were gone because it was around then that James Quinn was arrested in Spain, and there was raids done on MTK on the club out there in Marbella, near Marbella. At the time, we were investigating the setup of MTK, it was MGM at that stage.
MGM Marbella, yeah.
MGM Marbella, and the ownership of it and the structure of it. And we had discovered that shortly before the doors were kicked in, that the company had moved all its intellectual rights to Dubai, to a kind of a free trade zone.
Yeah.
Called Ras Al Khaimah.
Yeah, where they don't, where there's particular tax breaks to sort of attract money. But of course, the other bit of Dubai that was attractive was the ability not to, go on public company registers, which people probably don't realise here. But if you set up a company, that information is the public record. Anybody can get it if they pay for it,
Here, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But Dubai, of course, is a totally different story.
There's just layers of bureaucratic red tape that you can't get through. So it's a yes to that.
Yeah.
Do you want me to ask one?
Go on.
Okay, you've probably not thought about this, but who is your dream guest for Crime World?
Well, we're talking about the Kinahans, so I still think Christie Senior would be the great. I mean, obviously we had Gerard Hutch, so we had somebody on the patriarchal figure on the Hutch side, but it'd be great to get Christopher Kinahan Senior on, and I think because I think he is just a lot more interesting than some of them. I think there are people that rise to the top in gangland terms through sheer sort of violence, and those people may be very charismatic, but generally they sort of get to where they get through, fear and intimidation. But I think Christie Kinahan is a totally different story. I just as well remember he's gone through so many in an historical sense. He was, a kind of a petty fraudster back in the 80s, but then he was there for the original heroin boom. Then all of those movements through Europe. I think it's just a fascinating story, and I think he would have an interesting things to say, even politically.
I think he would be. I'd say he would look down his nose on you.
And Terry would look down his nose on me.
Would I be here for the interview?
Well, you would be here, yeah, but I'm sure he'd look down his nose even more.
But I couldn't even do the charm offensive.
No.
It just wouldn't work.
No, I don't think he'd be the type that would want to do an interview.
Ever?
No. And I don't think he's ever said more than one line to people. And no doubt every time those New Yorker magazine or whatever, these people I'm sure have contacted him all the time when they've done pieces on him, and BBC and Panorama. I think he's clever enough to realise that no interview is going to make him necessarily look good, but I think he would be a fascinating person to speak to, even just as a kind of a social history of criminality in Ireland, and criminality even in Europe and in the world.
Okay, good answer.
I'll ask you one.
Are we going to say that we have done a big project on Christie Kinahan Senior?
Well, we have, and it will be out on.
And maybe that's why he's so in your head there.
No, well, he is in my head, probably because of that. But I do think he has something more to say. And we have done a project. We've done. Is it a 6-part or a 5-part now?
6-part.
It's 6-part.
We're just bleary-eyed, but we have done a very big deep dive into Christy Kinahan from his childhood
Yeah,
up to where he is now.
to the present day, and I think it's an interest. There's loads of interesting bits to it to see why he became what he did become. But is that the same as this question?
What?
Because Nicola, you're stuck on a desert island with a criminal mentioned on Crime World. Who and why? Would you?
Oh,
Christy Kinahans is interesting, but would you want to be stuck on a desert island?
Why a desert island?
Because I suppose it's like a contained space.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to go down
To
to
run
Lidl,
away.
to go down to Lidl, or I'm nipping down to the bar. You're stuck.
Oh,
You're stuck with that
but
person.
you can have your things there with you.
Like what?
I don't know, like your
I suppose you can get.
Your
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, let's expand. You can get a helicopter drop. It's kind of like a. What's the other?
And it's
the
nice.
celebrity one, which you haven't been asked on yet. Celebrity stuck in the jungle or whatever it's called.
It's not called that. Like it's so not called that.
Well-
Celebrities stuck in the jungle.
I know it's not, well, it's something like that. So,
Right,
so
so-
let's adapt the question. Which celebrity criminal would you like to be stuck in
And
the
listen,
jungle with?
The desert island thing sounds nice, actually. So
Yeah.
it's sunny,
It's sunny.
and we have people to bring us things.
Yeah, but you're not really allowed to talk to them. You're mainly talking to this criminal
Okay.
figure.
But
So you can get your luxuries or whatever.
Okay.
You can get your whatever you like, foie gras for the morning or whatever whatever you eat there deep in the south side.
Foie gras sandwiches. So it's got to be for me.
Yeah.
It has to be George Mitchell, the penguin,
Why?
because I actually think he's equally as intriguing as Christy Kinahan Senior. Funny
Yeah.
enough, I think he is able to maneuver around the world of bad decisions, as the Spanish called it, and their
Difficult decisions.
difficult decisions, was it?
Yeah.
And the world of business in a similar way. Like he'd spent a period of time moonlighting as a guy called George Green, Mr. Green.
Yeah.
Like it's like something out of a Quentin Tarantino film.
Yeah.
He has moved with the times in his investments. He tried to establish a encrypted phone network. Now, sorry, can I just say, right? I'm stuck on my desert island. The sun is shining.
Yeah.
I've got Georgie Mitchell as my, my guest. So obviously you're all listening in to the conversation.
Right.
And we have somebody bringing us things at my every whim.
That's well, I suppose.
But I'd also have to say, given this is all a kind of a fantasy scenario, Georgie Mitchell would have to be given some truth serum.
To tell the truth.
Yeah. Because I don't want somebody sitting there like being smart arse with me, which he probably would.
Well, you see, this is the other thing about it.
Yeah.
Like, these guys who lead incredibly interesting lives, let's put it that way. People like Kinahan or Mitchell that we're talking about, like they do it at the expense of other parts of their personality, don't they? Let's be realistic.
They do.
So, while they can be very committed family people and, all of that, but probably like they are at heart sociopathic. aren't
Totally.
they?
Yeah.
And so really,
So they'd be playing you, like, as they're, anyway, look, again, this is slightly
odd.
hypothetical question, really, is it?
Yeah.
You're going to a desert island with George Mitchell. But I would love to be in a conversation with him where he was just open and honest about his life, because I think it's intriguing.
Yeah.
I think I've heard he's a bit of crack.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can kind of park the fact that he is one of the biggest organised criminals in Europe and probably beyond. If you can park the fact that he has been involved in difficult decisions himself over his career, and is suspected of mass shipments of drugs and weapons, and has ruled his gang with an iron fist and all the rest of it. If you can park all that, he is supposed to be good crack, and he loves a G&T.
Yeah. Well,
And a real dub at heart, and that dub sense of humour.
yeah.
That very funny sort of,
Yeah. Dry wit.
yeah,
Yeah. But overall,
he's my man.
he's
George
your man.
Mitchell. He's
However,
my man.
given a choice,
What?
probably not best not to be stuck on a desert island with any of them.
But possibly not. But I can tell you that if George Mitchell was asked the question,
he probably
he
wouldn't
would
want
not
to beat you.
be picking me to spend any time on a desert island with.
Yeah, probably if he had to choose between the two of us, I'd say he'd even pick me.
He would pick you. I know he would, because I'd say he's a man's man.
Right, okay,
I'd say he'd find me irritating, annoying, and posh.
How dare he? But so here's an interesting story. What does the research process look like behind the scenes? And this is a different question. It's about, well, we like to think we don't just come on and just waffle on.
The research process behind the scenes is complex because we've got two strands. We have this, which is our chat show, really, isn't it?
Kind of.
And then, do you not like that?
No. I mean, it is like it's.
You kind of went, kind of.
Well, it kind of is, but I suppose it's like it's evolved into what it is, which is that we're speaking in a conversational tone naturally. But we're also having to deal with serious issues. Obviously, by the nature, nearly every crime is serious to somebody. And, obviously there's people all over social media just talking about stuff, but we're under different restrictions because we work for a media organisation. So there is a huge amount of research, and there is a huge amount of knowledge, I suppose, about how you can speak and how you can't speak. And often, I suppose, by the time we get to speak about something, for example, if you think of a story that you've done recently, maybe, for example, the Jerry Hutch being hit with a cab bill, like, although that you hear that, but then there's a whole series of steps that go before that gets to print and then gets to be spoken about between us. Yeah. So it's not just a matter of...
a whole lot of checks and balances you have to do.
And not to get into the ins and outs of it, but you have to as well receive information and then go and look at it from through other people's eyes, let's put it that way. You then have to understand... You might receive that bit of information, but it might not be clear. For example, is this a proceeds of crime? Is this a tax bill, which it turned out to be in this case? You have to then understand the history of CAB and how they've operated. We have to have that research, I suppose, done on how somebody is served with a bill. Or does it go to court? All of those things, then we have to check, I suppose, with legal people who have knowledge of the law about, how this could happen. So it's not as simple as receiving a bit of information and bashing it out there.
No, it's definitely not. There is certainly, and, even though we're not overproduced here in that we don't have a structured, we don't know how long we're going to talk for, we don't know where.
No, and I mean, it's interesting as well because NASA and Chloe, who are recording this, they aren't as veterans like ourselves, hitting our whatever decade, but they recently had to go down and we're trying to track information about an individual, and they had to go and start doing, which we would have done for years ago, but they wouldn't have come across this before, about pulling birth certs to try and find out who's related to who. Yeah. And you have to go down to the research offices where people wouldn't even know that everybody's birth cert is a public document. Once you can look through the books and find it, and that will give you a certain amount of information about people's parents, just their parents' names and their occupation. So all of those things are done behind the scenes, and whether that ever comes to a story, that'll be something in the future. But there'll be a whole series of steps taken that I suppose we've both learned over time. There are certain things that are public documents, and then you get sources that can come from any side of the fence. And when you get something, then you have to check it with somebody who might be considered an opposing side to test it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's for the kind of what I have described as the chat show.
Yeah.
Sort of as in the day-to-day crime world stuff. Then you have this other arm, which is the Crime World Presents, which is the longer form journalism in audio and video, Groomed being the most recent. And the research for that is vast.
It is vast. And
it's really professionally done by a whole team that are working. I mean, there's no one person create something like Crime World Presents. You find the voices that are going to talk to you. You research the story. And
then you have to find the narrative, don't you?
You have to find the narrative,
what is it about? Like obviously somebody may have killed somebody, but you have to find, you're trying to find how this all occurred.
How to tell the story. What's the threads that go through it from start to end? How to keep a listener or a viewer interested.
Yeah.
You're seeking their time, which is such a valuable commodity. And you want to tell them a story, how to storytell. And that's a whole other, process. And that's actually an area where you are going to expand and be doing a lot more of, that sort of intense investigative journalism in the audio form.
Yeah. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
going to ask you this because you're not going to know.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you then. Any live shows in the pipeline?
Well,
he hasn't a clue.
No, I don't have a clue.
I have you booked in for a couple of shows.
Oh, do you?
Next year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll tell you all about them.
Yeah.
Maybe in the new year.
Okay.
But yeah, you are booked in.
And I'll start worrying about them.
And you can start worrying about them. You've got better.
I've got better, yeah. I've got more. Do
you remember you used to kind of feel sleepy slews?
because
explain that again for anyone who never heard that story.
No, because I would get just before, because I'm
fussed.
I'd be much more humble than you, Nicola.
Fussy is the word.
I would say humble.
That's a better word, you see.
Right. But so I would have been very unused to all that. But what happens is, like, people get nervous. Obviously, public speaking, everybody can understand that. But whatever way nervousness affects me, it makes me feel really, really tired.
Yeah, like you were wanting to go to sleep.
Yes. So this is, we did if I think back to it, we did that Olympia with absolutely very little preparation, and I was getting panicked. And I was ready to go to sleep just about an hour.
Was it even an hour? It was
like 40 minutes. Like, really. And I was struggling to stay awake.
I was the opposite.
See, and one of the things you do, which is really one of your many cruelties, but one of the particular cruelty you do to me is, I just want to know, when we go out in this show and we start that second, what's the first thing you're going to say and then I'm going to say?
Yeah.
But you'll never tell me.
I never tell you.
No.
And I can sometimes surprise you that.
I just want to know that first line.
But have you not got used to that, even with the podcast? We talk about research. With all the planning that we've discussed that we do for these kind of things, we also sometimes just hit record and start talking.
Yeah. Well, we do mostly do that, but we do kind of understand what we're going to say.
Yeah.
One more question I'll ask you, and I actually know the answer.
Oh, no.
If either of you had your time over again, would you have liked to have worked as a member of An Garda Síochána or a barrister?
No. Did you know the answer?
Yeah, did you?
No, I wouldn't like to.
And I'll tell you why you wouldn't have liked.
Why?
For a start, An Garda Síochána is a very structured organisation. So you would have people telling you what, unless you actually rose to being the commissioner, in which case you'd have politicians telling you what to do. So you would be particularly unsuited to having bosses who told you what to do. Right?
I know.
And a barrister.
Why would I not have
been a barrister?
Yeah.
Because you would have had to do a lot of intricate paperwork.
Okay.
Where you would have had to pay particular attention
to detail,
to small detail.
Okay.
And much less big picture, instant hit.
No, neither of those would have definitely. And what about you?
I definitely wouldn't have liked An Garda Síochána because
why?
Because I am quite like you, even though I'm much more.
You don't like authority,
and I'm much more pleasant about it.
Yeah,
and all of that.
You just don't like being told what to do.
I don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
And now I don't make a big fuss like you. You make yourself the centre of attention, but.
I so don't do that.
And I wouldn't have mind being a barrister.
No,
I might have been an okay barrister.
Could I not have a secretary type that would look at the detail and the paperwork?
In An Garda Síochána?
No, like a barrister. I could have a junior counsel. I could never be a junior counsel. No, that's the difference. I could be a senior.
But you do tend to have to become a junior counsel before you become a senior
that's
counsel.
The problem. If I could have just leapfrogged that,
you would have liked to have leapfrogged straight into being a judge.
Oh yes, I would. Of course, I would. I think that the barristers, though, I love watching the courts.
Yeah.
I actually just think it's such a theatre. And they are like actors sometimes.
They are.
Some of them are so dramatic.
And they have to be performers. And that's the funny thing, because of course there's kind of people don't really like to say that in the legal profession, do they?
No, they do
like
not,
to think it's just about what they say and the facts of all, but the performance definitely matters, and it definitely matters to a jury.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, well look, let's leave that there. We'll come back with a second part because we have so many questions to go through. I'm Nicola Tallant and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.